this touches on, I guess, the theme of this podcast, inclusion. And I
Mm,
know that's really important to you.
yeah.
And so I thought, well, what is inclusion? We have some of us have a vague idea. I'm sure you have a very clear idea of what it is. So I thought I'll look this up and provide some context. So according to inclusion.me.uk, inclusion is seen as a universal human right. The aim of inclusion is to embrace all people, irrespective of race, gender, disability, medical, or other need. It is about giving equal access and opportunities and getting rid of discrimination and intolerance, the removal of barriers. And this is fascinating in the context of living in Japan, either as a foreigner or even as a Japanese. And so I do have all these questions for you, both your life experience, but also what you observe of Japanese, because we know a lot of Japanese suffer from bullying, or many Japanese just choose to remove themselves from society because it can be a very hard life, with all the conformity. So with that definition in mind, how would you describe inclusion in Japan, and how does it play out in such a homogeneous society?
Yeah, well, I think, that first myth of Japan is a homogeneous society, that is simply not true. I'm not a statistics expert or anything from that perspective, but the story of we are homogeneous, wari wari nihonjin, we're all the same, Japanese exceptionalism,
Mm-hmm.
but there's as many different needs. There's, lots of intersectionality. There's people from the LGBTQ plus community. There's different ways of showing up in the workplace. There's neurodiversity. There's people who have different, heritage, different backgrounds, because we have, Zainichi Koreans and so on. There's always been diversity in Japan, but the narrative of we are
Mm.
all the same, we are homogenous, helps as it's a political and social structure that serves the end and has worked very well for Japanese society, from my perspective, right? But now I think there's more awareness of what are the limiting factors of that. And as you said, hikikomori, who are locking themselves away in their home,
Mm.
high suicide rates, mental illness, a sense of, I love that you talk about ibasho, because I think that trying to find a place in Japan requires quite a lot of sacrifice on the part of the individual.
Mm.
And that comes at a price. So the price of inclusion is quite high. And you have to hide
Yeah.
parts of yourself. You have to grin and bear it. Yeah, so it's a cost to show up authentically, like jibun nashisa, to be fully yourself. And many people are just like, they see someone who pays that price and they're henna hito, they're a strange person.
Mm.
Like, oh, hang on. Yeah, I don't want to be in that. So it can be, parts of society can be quite unforgiving,
Yes.
if you fit outside the the norms. And I always forget the Japanese translation, the original, and I'm sure you know it. But the nail that sticks out gets hammered down.
Yeah.
But that's a received wisdom. That's a received wisdom, and let's have inclusion.
This is interesting. So it sort of reminded me of a few things of that. I remember correcting students saying, this expression, we Japanese do this or that. I remember thinking how odd, and it's grammatically correct, but we don't say the sort of thing in English. And it really made me think, wow, there is this general sense among Japanese on what is correct or right, or how things should be, because they
Mm.
use this expression, we Japanese think this, or we Japanese do this. And so, yeah, to sort of go back to what you're saying, there is diversity in Japan, but or I guess my perception of Japan is, yeah, what you've pointed out, to be individualistic or to be from a minority group, whether that's you're gay or you're half Japanese, Korean, or you're just a bit different, there'll be great concern on how you're accepted. And my assumption is, for the most part, you won't be fully accepted, and you'll have to face a lot of criticism, resistance. And I've actually got a Japanese friend who told me, I've told no one this. I'm half Korean. Do not tell anyone. But he kind of had this need to let me know. And it really shocked me how fearful he was of
like
anyone in his community finding out.